أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا إما يبلغن عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا كريما واخفض لهما جناح الذل من الرحمة وقل رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. When you look at this verse, the holy verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings two important decrees to Muslims to follow. The one is the fundamental of the creation, based on which that creation took place, and that's the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is mandated by everyone. All of humanity is to perform worship, to pray to God. Coupled with this is treating one's parents with goodness, being nice to their parents. There is another ayah that again God talks about the same topic. When He talks about the ancient nations, God says, وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ. We've taken covenant from them, a pledge from Bani Israel. أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. So this concept of being nice or treating the parents with humanity, with goodness, is not a concept that Islam brought. Rather, this was as old as the humanity itself. The question, why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala signify this? Why would He couple the goodness toward parents with His worship and make it in a single package? What is the reason? The scholars give many reasons. I have summarized some of them. Number one, brothers and sisters, we call it the source of the creation. All human beings, once they are born, they live, they grow, they reach adulthood and maturity. At that time, they start to work and achieve for themselves. Some of them become doctors, some of them become lawyers, some of them become presidents, some become rulers and monarchs. All of their achievements. But all of those achievements are hostage to one thing, depend on one thing. What is that thing? If they were not created, would they be able to do those achievements? All depends on their creation. If God does not create them, let's say God had not created the president, would He brag about Himself and say that I am the president? No. All those achievements depends on the fact that God has created them. Therefore, when we bring thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and gratitude, not only for those blessings that God has given us, we also do the thank and the gratitude for the mere fact that God has brought us to existence. Otherwise, if we did not exist, then what's the point? All those achievements were completely gone. They would not form at first place. You see, and sometime in history, 1,000 years ago, where were we? 1,000 years from now, where will we? We are nothing. During only in this time, we achieved something. And the Holy Quran says, هَلْ أَتَى عَلَى الْإِنسَانِ حِينٌ مِنَ الدَّهْرِ لَمْ يَكُنْ شَيْئًا مَذْكُورًا. At certain ages, this human being does not even exist. His entire existence was, nothing. Therefore, our achievement depends on the fact that God has created us. And that's how we are indebted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The same thing we can say about our parents. In a sense, our parents are the source of our existence. To say if our parents were not there, or if they did not meet, they did not get married, were we there? We would not be there. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord, He is the creator. He has created us through proper channels. The proper channels are the parents. If the channels were not there, also we were not there. The same thing you can say about the substance, the green, the plants. How many trees are available today in the world? Those billions upon billions and trillions of trees all depend on what? On water. If it were not water, if it were not rain, those trees would not be forming. God would say in the Holy Quran, says, وَأَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً فَأَخْرَجَ بِهِ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ رِزْقًا لَكُمْ. The sustenance that you eat, the food that you eat, is all due to the fact that God poured the rain. The rain becomes the mean by which we survive and we eat. The same thing you can say about the parents. The parents have become the mean by which we exist. Here, the elegant words of Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. In his Risalat al-Huquq, the Bill of Rights, he says, وَحَقُّ أَبِيكَ أَن تَعْلَمَ أَنَّهُ أَصْلُكَ وَأَنَّهُ لَوْلَاهُ لَمْ تَكُنْ. The right of your father, and of course this one goes to the mother as well, basically the parents. The rights of your parents, it is that you make sure that he's your origin. If you were not there, if the origin is not there, also the branch would not be formed. And without him, you were nothing. You would not come to existence. فَمَهْمَا رَأَيْتَ مِن نَفْسِكَ مَا يُعْجِبُكَ. Whatever you see about yourself that it pleases you. Oh, mashallah, I became a scholar. I became a doctor. I am a professor. I can speak elegantly. Whatever you see in yourself, what makes you happy about yourself, فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ أَبَاكَ أَصْلُ النِّعْمَةِ عَلَيْكَ. The origin of this mercy and blessing that God has bestowed upon you was your father. Therefore, we can never, not even one split of second, we can pay back our parents. Why? Because whatever we do, still we owe it to them. If I do good things, if I reach the highest position in society, in the country, in the world, it is all due to my parents. If my mother and my father were not there, I would not be able to accomplish this one. There is a man came to the Prophet, peace be upon him, صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. He told the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, كان لي أمًا وأب. I had both of my parents, but my father died. But my mother is so old, she's basically paralyzed. She cannot walk. She cannot even understand. I am the one who brings the food, chop the food, feed her. At the same time, I change her clothes, I change her bed, and put her in crib. Make sure that no animal attacks her, no, danger can engulf her, and take, eyes on all the time, my eyes on her. I never take my eyes away from her. 24 hours I babysit her. You think, did I pay back for what she did to me? You see, this is how arrogant we are, brothers and sisters. When we do little things, some good things, in our eye, this is so magnificent. MashaAllah. You see, I paid this person. I fed the person. I helped them. I picked up the phone and called them. But those are not enough, brothers and sisters. What was the answer of the Prophet? The Prophet, peace be upon him, told him, لا ما أديت حق ولا زفرة واحدة حين وضعتك. The time that she delivered you and you were nothing, At that time, those moanings, those screams that she did, you did not pay back a single one of them. Let's our youth listen. Let's make sure that they listen the right of their parents. How much the Prophet, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, emphasizes on this fact. Even when we do good to them, basically we are doing good to our own selves. Even when we do good to them, we are owing it to them. The same thing when we do the prayers. When we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is out of His mercy upon us who allowed us to worship Him. Don't we say in the Holy Quran, doesn't God say in the Holy Quran, and we repeat in the nights of Ramadan, we say Alhamdulillahi alladhi hadana lihada wa ma kunna linahtadiya lawla an hadana Allah. This is a gratitude from God that has bestowed upon us that we worship Him. Otherwise we have been just like billions of those people who don't know their Lord. Completely oblivious. But we are guided. And this is a very important, example of mercy. The same thing with our parents. When we do good to them, basically we are owing it to them. We receive the benefits ourselves. So, number one, brothers and sisters, is the source of the creation is together. God and parents have this similarity, that both have the source of the creation. The second common feature that God shared with the parents is this, brothers and sisters. It is unconditional love. There are many people who are philanthropists. They help people for any reason. You ask them, they provide. You don't even ask them, they provide. But believe me, brothers and sisters, you cannot find a single person who does good for no return. No one. No one. You cannot find a single one who's in his belief, his ideas, when he does a good thing, he does not expect a return. Even the believers. The believer, when he does a good thing, he does not expect the good thing from you or from me. But he expects a good thing from whom? From Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maybe he doesn't need it in this world. He's rich, he's powerful, he doesn't need it. But he needs it in the hereafter. When he does a good thing, he says, I'm doing it for the reward for the akhirah. You do not find anyone who does a good thing and say, no, I just did it just because I'm a human. It has to have certain reason. Except two entities. Those two group of entities, they don't look for any kind of payback. Number one is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How many times we make sins? How many times we turn to be stubborn and revolt against God and make so many mistakes and sins and crimes? Again, we come back to Him. Without anything, He pays us. He gives us as much as we want. Sometimes we ask, He gives. Sometimes we don't ask, again, He will give. In the dua of the month of Rajab, we say, Ya man yu'ti man sa'alah. Ya man yu'ti man lam yas'alhu wa man lam ya'rifhu tahannunan minhu wa rahmah. Even those who do not ask Him, do not beg Him still, He will write in the checks. He brings the substance to their mouth. Give them so much for no reason. Just showing His love to them. Always giving the love. That's why we say in the Basmala, Bismillah Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. What's the difference between the two? Ar-Rahman is the mercy of God here in this world. That He gives it undivided. Does not differentiate between kafir and mu'min. Between the believer and the sinful. All in His eyes are equal. He gives them. The same thing with the parents. The parents also, when they give, when they care for their children, do they give it for return? Do they wait for the return that when the child becomes old and becomes full adult, at that time they tell him, okay, give me your paycheck? Have you seen any parent do this one? They go, they agonize themselves, they put themselves into hardship for the fact that their children to become, healthy, sound, and good, and bright in schools. They suffer. They take from their own sustenance in order to feed their own children. So much. Look at the mother. How much suffering she goes through the pregnancy. It is statistics. These statistics are from World Health Organization. It says that annually there are 529,000 women die during their pregnancy when they give labor. Only when they give labor, more than 500,000 of people, of women die due to the fact that they give birth to their children. There are 10 million of them who suffer injuries, infections, disabilities, paralysis, complete paralysis, due to the fact that they give birth to their children. Still, you see how much devoted they are. How much and with which kind of passion they raise their children. You see, the fetus does not stay passively in the womb of his mother. It's like a parasite. You know parasite? Parasite is when an animal becomes a guest of a host, and takes all the goods away from that host. That's what the fetus does. It competes with the mother organs for the food. That's why you see that the mother is inflicted with high blood pressure, with bleeding gums, constipations, loss of hair, backbone pain, all kind of sickness she endures in order to make her child happy and sound and healthy. When she brings a child that is healthy to this world, her happiness cannot be matched by anything else. Why? Because of the unconditional love that she has toward her children. The same thing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the second feature, brothers and sisters. The third one, the attitude of both God and parents does not alter, does not change, even if there is a misbehavior and sin by the person. You see how many times we make a sin? How many times we promise God that this is our last time. We will never do this. And again we go back and do the same mistake. And again we expect it from God. And God will give tawfiq. قل يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا على أنفسهم لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله. All those of you who had done extravagance, exaggerated upon yourself, does not even say a sin. Does not say that you have committed a sin. No, you've exaggerated. You took extravagance against your own. Come back to it. How many times we make the sin and again we return back? There is elegant sayings in Dua Abu Hamza. Dua Abu Hamza is one of the most elegant, one of the most beautiful prayers, brothers and sisters, and supplication that is recited, especially recited in the holy nights of Ramadan. Make sure that at least a few times you recite this beautiful dua. In the dua, Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam says, الحمد لله الذي تحبب إلي وهو غني عني. He shows me His mercy, love, but He doesn't need me. He's needless. He doesn't care. Yet, He shows His love toward me. والحمد لله الذي يحلم عني كأني لا ذنب. He forgives me if I have not made any mistake. A complete, pure, infallible person. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala treats us. The same thing, the parents. How many times, due to our ignorance, due to our stubbornness, we insult our parents. We attack them, sometimes verbally, sometimes physically. Sometimes do not follow their orders, give them hard time. Just after a few minutes, they completely forget, and again, they embrace us. How many times this has happened to us? Why? Because of the, forgiveness nature that they have toward their parents. There is a beautiful poetry in Arabic. I will tell you the story of it. It's really, very heartbreaking. Very, very heartbreaking. That depicts it portrayed a young boy, a young man, who has been lured by an older man to give him money. But the older man is looking for the heart of his mother. Tells him, I will give you the money, but I want one thing from you. That you go and stab your mother to death, and grab her heart and come back to me. At that time, I will pay you the money. It's a beautiful poetry. I don't want to take your time too much on it. But here what happens. It says that the guy goes and stabs, the knife on the heart of his mother and get the heart out. When he gets it out, he needs to bring it fresh and warm to the guy. As he does, he stumbles and falls on the ground. As he falls on the ground, he hears the heart talking to him and tells him, "Waladi habibi, hal asabaka min darb?" Have you hurt yourself? Look at the heart of the mother. Even at that moment, she thinks about her child. This is how the parents are. The story is not even done. He says at that time he realizes what kind of mistake he did. So he grabbed the knife to stab himself. At that time again, the heart speaks again and tells him, "Waladi habibi, stop doing this. Don't you kill me once, don't kill me twice." This is the heart of the mother. This is the heart of the parents. How much they love us. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Those are, brothers and sisters, the three examples that we share. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Utilize the word says walidain, does not specify which walidain, which parents. The al-walidain is representative of all kind of parents. Whether he's a believer, whether he's a sinful, whether he's Muslim, non-Muslim, you have to show your goodness toward your parents, regardless of their faith, regardless of their belief, whether they comply to the rule and they're Muslims and abiding Muslim, or they're not. Still, your duty is to show respect, to show your love and admiration to them. You see, we don't have any sin worse than shirk. That someone who negates the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes a mushrik. God would not forgive the person who is mushrik. But when it comes to the parents, God would answer this, say this. He says that if they force you and persuade you to change your faith, to become mushrik, to do something against your own faith, do not follow them, but at the same time be nice to them. وَإِنْ جَاهَدَاكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِي مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. Even at that time, you try to be nice to them. You never insult them. You never even say something that makes them unhappy, displease them about yourself. This is how much importance and emphasis God gives regarding the children, regarding the parents. Then the word comes ihsan. What is ihsan? Ihsan, any good things, any good deed that you perform, you do toward your parents, that is recognized. Now the scholars have divided ihsan into many categories. I have chosen only two. Number one is to obey them. Our duty is to obey our parents, regardless of our age, brothers and sisters. Some of us grow up, become adult, mashallah. We will start, have families. Some of us, our mustache can be rolled up, Still, you have to follow your parents. If the father or the mother tells you, "Mother, don't go to this trip. This trip, I am afraid that if you go, something wrong happens to you. Stay with her. Make her happy." If the father tells you, "Oh son, I know you're old enough, you understand everything, but I don't want you to go with those kind of a group to this particular place. It is my duty to follow." There are four groups of people mandated by Islamic jurisprudence to follow. Number one is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The orders of God. Any order, we follow. The commands of His prophets, the commands of the imams, five group. The commands of the imam, the command of the just ruler. You have a just ruler who's believer, who's just, and orders people to do something we cannot disobey. And number five, the parents. Even if you are old enough. Unless sometimes it is irrational. For example, you have to work. You have to provide for yourself. Your parent tell you no, do not work, stay at home. At that time, please them. When you say no, do not say it explicitly in their face. Tell them, Dad, I have so many things to do, I cannot. Bring an excuse. Make them happy about yourself. Never make them angry. Never anger them when you talk to them. One man came to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and told him, Ya Rasulullah, إني رجل شاب نشيط. I'm goodness. I am full of energy. وأحب الجهاد. I would like even to participate in jihad, in the battles. وَلِيَ وَالِدَةٌ تَكْرَهُ ذَلك. But my mother doesn't want it. She tells me, stay with me. Of course, that jihad was not a defensive jihad. It was something that the Prophet was going outside of the city. The city of Muslimin was not in danger. The Prophet, peace be upon him, tells him this. ارجع فكن معها. Be with her. لأنسها. بك ليلة خير من جهاد في سبيل الله سنة. If she's happy with you for one night, God will give you the reward more than for giving a reward of a mujahid for 1 year, for an entire year. That's how much we earn, thawab and good things and bounties from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if we satisfy our own children. Regarding the marriage, for example, it is obvious. If it's a girl, if she's virgin, she has to gain the permission of her father if she wants to get married. According to Ayatollah Sistani, says that the marriage is no if she does not gain the permit of her father to get married. That's for the daughter in house, not after she gets married and she gets divorced. If she gets divorced, that's another story. But while she's at home, she has to follow. For the son, also it is recommended to listen to the parents. The parents do not hate you, brothers and sisters, especially to my younger generation. They want your well-being. They want you to be happy. They want you to be successful. So when they object to something, they object out of rationality and out of experience. They have more experience than us. So sometimes you need to follow, even if you don't like it. Even if you see this is not, a rational thing. In many instances, you have to follow. The other meaning of ihsan is to treat them nicely. When you deal with them, you better deal with them in a good way, in a wonderful way, in a respectable way. Islam, if you look at the Islamic literature, you see many of those regulations. Islam has been said. It tells you if you walk with your father, don't take a distance. Don't walk before him. Don't walk in front of him. When you speak with your father and your mother, do not raise your voice. Speak slowly, respectfully. The same thing as you talk to the Prophet, peace be upon him. In the Holy Quran says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تَرْفَعُوا أَصْوَاتَكُمْ فَوْقَ صَوْتِ النَّبِيِّ. When you speak to the Prophet, make sure that you have, a very low pitch. Don't speak in a high voice. The same thing with the parents. Do not speak in a high voice. Some of them, unfortunately, I have seen this, brothers and sisters, and it's really, troubling. You see the children, when they call their parents, they call them by their names. They say, oh, Fulan, or Haji, or even Sayyid, Haji, do this and do that. This causes the children to become aq. You know what aq is? Aq is a state of ingratitude. It's a very despised state that if someone dies while he's aq, straight to Jahannam, without kafir, without any question. You see, this is one thing that contributes to being aq, when someone calls his parents by their names. You see, When the ayah came to the Prophet, to the Muslims, telling them, when you call upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, mention Ya Rasulullah, do not use his name. You know, many of those, uncivilized Arabs would come and say, Ya Muhammad, tell me, Ya Muhammad, come out. The ayah came to say, وَلَا تَجْهَرُوا لَهُ بِالْقَوْلِ كَجَهْرِ بَعْضُكُمْ لِبَعْضٍ أَنْ تَحْبَطَ أَعْمَالُكُم. When you call him, be polite when you talk to the Prophet. All Muslims started to call him Ya Rasulullah. Even his daughter Fatima started to call him Ya Rasulullah a couple of times. Then the Prophet, peace be upon him, stopped him. Told him, Bunayya, why don't you call me Ya Abba? I would love to hear the word dad from you. Love to hear the word mom when you call your mom. Say mom, say dad. This call was not for you. It was for those uncivilized Arabs who have no respect, no values. They would call me Ya Muhammad. This call was for them. But for you, I would love to hear Ya Abba from you. Call me by my name as Abba, father. And the same thing we have to learn. Many of us, we are sitting playing, oh dad, can you get me some ice cream? Oh dad, can you get me a cup of water in your way? Can you get me a lollipop? This is not your mate. He's not your buddy. He's your father. Your mother is not your cook that she just keeps cooking for you to feed you. She's not your mate. One problem that we have, unfortunately, brothers and sisters, here, especially in these countries, we spoil our children to the point that they get confused between us as parents and their buddies, or between the maid that comes and, he cleans up. They think that we are the maid as well. Yes, sometimes the father, the mother would like to help the children. Yes, feed them, be nice with them, spoil them. But it is the mentality of the children who should recognize that this person is their father. The hadith goes there, says, لَعَنَ اللَّهُ وَالِدَيْنِ حَمَلَا ابْنَهُمَا عَلَىٰ عُقُوقِهِمْ. God would curse those parents who allow their children to treat them like this. It is your job to stop them. Treat your parents with respect. When you speak with respect. Deal with them respectfully. Al-Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam narrates this story. He said, a man, my father saw a man, a young man, نظر إلى رجل ومعه ابنه. The young man was walking with his father. What the guy was doing? He was leaning against his father. Only leaning against his father while his father is carrying him away. At that time, when Ali ibn Hussein Zayn al-Abidin looked at that child, at that little young man, فَمَا كَلَّمَهُ أَبِي مَقْتًا لَهُ حَتَّى فَارَقَ الدُّنْيَا. My father died and never talked to this young man again. It took to be that this young man was one of the relatives. When Imam Zayn al-Abidin saw the treatment of the boy to his father like this, he stopped talking to the boy. Until the Imam passed away. Why? He was so upset how he treated his father. Look at this. Look at this hadith. This is a very strong, powerful narration, brothers and sisters. Al-Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, من نظر إلى أبويه نظر ماقت. If someone looks at his parents with disdain, full of rage, وهما ظالمان له. Even they have incurred, they wronged him. They're the ones who have incurred injustice. For example, in front of a group of people, the father slapped his son on his face. If the son reacts by looking, only by looking at the father with disdain, لم يقبل الله له صلاة. God will not accept his prayers. How much emphasis we get from the ahadith. You see, brothers and sisters, with this one, inshallah, we will conclude. The sin of being aaq, being ungrateful, this state of aaq is one of the sins that the shaitan become dominant. When the person becomes aaq, negates his parents, shaitan becomes dominant on him. At that time, every sin he commits, the shaitan gets him. Every good thing he wants to do, the shaitan gets him and turns him away. Push him away. He would not leave him until he dies. When he dies, he makes sure that this person dies not as a Muslim. Make sure that this person dies as a kafir. This is how the shaitan dominates the person who's been disowned by his parents. This is the story. Look at this story. It is narrated that one day, it was reported to the Prophet, peace be upon him, that one young man is about to die. He's severely sick, has difficulty, and he cannot breathe, he's about to die. Come to rescue him. The Prophet comes to him. As he looks at him, when he looks at him, he asks, Alihada Once he looked at this young man, he said, is there a mother to this young man? There was a lady standing in front of the Prophet. She said, Na'am ya Rasulullah, I am his mother. He told her, Asakhiratun alayh? Are you angry with him? Are you upset with him? He said, Na'am ya Rasulullah. Yes. وَمَا كَلَّمْتُهُ مُنْذُ سِتَّ حِجَجٍ. I have not spoken to this young man for 6 years. Imagine, 6 years shaitan was dominant on this boy. For 6 years. He looked at her and tells her, Ya Amatallah, your son is dying, but he's going to be in a bad position. Would you forgive him? She said, La ya Rasulullah, I cannot forgive him. Anytime I want to forgive him, my heart has the desire to forgive him, but whenever I come to think to forgive him, I remember of things that he has done to me. The mistreatments that he has done to me, I cannot. Again, the Prophet begs her, she doesn't listen. At that time, he calls for the logs. The Prophet said, bring some logs, some wood. The companions bring some logs and wood, and he asked them to set them on fire. Once they set that wood on fire, he said, take the ghulam, take this young man and put him on the fire. The mother screamed, what are you doing, Ya Rasulullah? He told her, you are doing exactly the same.